Hello, and welcome to another episode of the WeinHR podcast. I just had a brilliant session with the HRmadam herself, Ms. Funmi Bucknor, and I feel like she just shared a lot of life lessons on how we should be as HR leaders, right? She talked about kindness, the importance of kindness. She talked about how employers can position themselves as employers of choice. She talked about how we as HR leaders can even respond, to some of the changes that are happening, especially in Nigeria, where we just had this recent situation with the fuel subsidy removal. She talked about strategies that we can, try to adopt. But most importantly, I think I left here today understanding the importance of kindness. And I'm so sure that you would have a lot to learn from this particular episode. So if you would like to know more, then definitely keep on watching.
Thank you so much for joining the WeinHR podcast. It's so good to have you here, Ms. Funmi Bucknor. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And I'm really happy to be here with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
So what I like to do is just start out with, quick questions. We want to know how you got into HR. Did you choose HR? Did HR choose you? Did you just kind of find yourself there? How did it happen?
That's an interesting question. So I would say that HR chose me because, to be honest, when I was going into the university, I did not even know that a course like that existed. I really wanted to be an accountant. And so even before I gained admission into university, I had started writing my accounting technician scheme exam. I think that's what they were called, and I think it's now called AAT. So I did not write the exam, but I started taking listings in Ibadan. And when I filled my JAM form for my first choice, I filled Unilag accounting. And just in case they missed it the first time, for my second choice, I chose Unilag accounting, so that you are really sure that this is what this girl wants to study. But I didn't meet the cutoff for accounting at the University of Lagos, even though I later found out that there were people who scored less than, or is it less than I did, and they still got in. But I mean, that's water under the bridge. But then I was now told, there's this course that you could do, IRPM, Industrial Relations and Personnel Management. And I was like, God forbid, what is that? So, but anyway, I got into uni for that. And for the first semester, my first semester on campus, I actually used to cry every day. I did not really used to go for lectures. I did not even associate with people in my department. So all my friends in year one, if not all, maybe 90% of my friends in year one were in accounting. And so, I still had it in mind to go and write JAM again so that I could now come in for accounting. But I think by second semester, I made up my mind that I was just going to stick to industrial relations and personnel management. But yeah, and that's what I've done over the years, after school. I've been in consulting. I've done back from HR and back to consulting now, although as a business owner. So yeah, that's my HR story.
So definitely HR chose you. That is such a beautiful story, right? So how did you come up with HRmadam? I've been so interested in how you arrived at that.
Yeah, I think that in Nigeria, so it's a name again that was chosen for me. I did not even choose that name, and I'll give you the story. So and I think as an HR person, you can relate with the fact that most organizations, if you're in HR, people don't even call you your name, they call you HR. So as a young girl in HR, that's what I was called. Hey, HR, come, HR, this, HR, that, But I think that as I then progressed in my career and I became more mature and became more senior, people started calling me Madam HR, not even HR, Madam HR. So I can't remember what year now, whether it was 2014. Yeah, I think it must have been in 2014 actually. I actually started an HR talk show which aired on CT 101.5 FM. right? And when I was trying to come up with a name for the show, my idea with a couple of people. So the show was called World of Work with HRmadam, and so it was people that came up with World of Work with Madam HR or World of Work with HRmadam, and so that's why I chose that name. And when I left paid employment in 2015, and again, I'm an accidental business owner because I didn't even think that I was going to stay away from 9 to 5 for that long. Do you understand? So, but an opportunity came in for me to consult for a business, and they wouldn't transact with me unless I had some form of business structure. So I quickly did a business name, and in doing the business name, I just used HRmadam. Like that was what came to me easily. Even though my mentor at the time said, "Well, a time will come that you will consider changing that name, but for now, it serves the purpose." So that's how the name came about.
Thank you for sharing. And just hearing your story, you come across as someone who is quick to adapt, So the whole thing happened with JAM and you wanted to study accounting, but somehow you decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to make do with what I have. And look at you today. I mean, you were nominated as one of the 40 HR leaders in Nigeria. That is a big deal, right? So HR definitely knew that you were the person for her. So yeah, well done, and well done on all your accomplishments so far. So you talked about how you were in paid employment, and now you're a business owner, and now you're consulting. What has that journey been like? Has it been different?
I will say that there are similarities because HR is HR and HR is universal, but there are also differences because it's not the same setting. It's not the same stakeholders. It's not the same structure in a lot of instances. So even consulting in a big four, for example, is different from being a one-man consulting business, consulting for small businesses in Nigeria. It's really, really different. I say that the experience in working and when I worked in 9 to 5, I actually worked in global organizations which had very set structures, systems, processes, and procedures in place. And in actual fact, there was that monitoring from HQ. So there were standard practices and, standard practice and best practice and people adhere to that. A lot of innovation as well, a lot of initiatives as well that set apart even with people globally. But now exiting that space and going into consulting for small businesses, and understandably so, in the sense that small businesses don't have the kind of budget that big organizations have and the kind of resources that big organizations have. So it's having to work with limited resources and budget and still trying to achieve results with those things. So sometimes when I attend conferences or all these seminars where we have conversations and I hear some of these lofty ideas, and they're good ideas, by the way, I'm not knocking anybody or knocking any ideas, I always ask myself, how practical is this in a one-man business in Nigeria organization? Do you understand? So it's that ability to be able to borrow some of those initiatives and see how you can customize them for your clients that really will set you apart. I mean, as far back as 2000, I worked in a Big Four in 2008 till 2012 or 13. And in that period, even then, as far back as then, we had a crash on site. Now, which small business will be able to accommodate that? But there are other ways that you can address that issue, in the sense that you can do like a concierge service in the first place, or number two, subsidize for new mothers to register in maybe a creche around your organization. That makes it easy or easier for them to be able to manage their new reality as a new mom, and then having to continue as a professional in your organization. So yeah, similarities, but also differences, different virtues, different structures, and different budgets and resources, really.
I think You're so spot on.
And the keyword that I got from what she said is customize, right? Because I think it's a trap that a lot of us fall into as HR leaders, right? We see this nice concept. X company is doing this, Y company is doing that. Let's do it. But again, different companies, different budget sizes, etc. So I want to bring it home for our HR people. There is this huge issue, right? And I recently heard Mr. Yemi Fashion say that I think recently some banks decided to increase the salaries for their employees, due to the whole fuel subsidy removal, right? And he was like, nobody would applaud HR people now. It's when things go bad, and some people would say HR didn't do this, HR didn't do that. So I want to bring it home. And I'm sure that a lot of HR people are wondering, what is the best way to respond to this fuel subsidy removal thing? My company wants to save money, and I'm also meant to ensure that I'm able to customize a solution, right, that will make my employees happy and also ensure that my business doesn't suffer as well. What would be your advice to HR people at this point in time?
Okay, so I attended a webinar, I think 2 days ago, and it was facilitated by Wale Adediran. And it was this same question that webinar was addressing, and I think it was quite insightful. I'm just going to borrow some of the things, some of the points that were shared there. Of course, also merging it with some of the ideas that I had and that I had actually proposed to some of my clients. So salary raise is good. I think even before the fuel hike, I think that in general, employees never admit that their salary is okay. People always want more anyway. And I think that even before the fuel hike, they thought they still needed more money. But I don't think, and I quite agree with Wale Adediran in what he said, that I don't even think that salary increase is always, I don't think it's always the response to inflation, increase in inflation rates or increase in fuel hike, or just issues around finances for employees. There are other ways that you can address that issue. And one of the main points is, I think that people need to, what we can give our people at this time is, number one, financial literacy. In the sense that people then need to be able to have the skills to budget better, to be able to reduce their costs, and manage, just manage your inflows versus your outflows in general. So where there are some excesses that people are going to have to really cut out, in terms of their expenses. So I mean, at some point, not even this time, and again, inflation or economic issues, they always, it's like they're even cyclical. So they come, they go, they come, they go. There was sometimes, I mean, somebody said to me that they had to come off a particular subscription bouquet for their DSTV at the time, and they came to a lower one, just to be able to manage their costs and their expenses. I mean, I've also had people say, oh, I took my children out of this expensive. I mean, even though it might not be palatable, but if it's a choice that you have to make, so I mean, a friend actually told me that they took their kids out of a very high paying fees school to a decent school as well, but not as high as that other one. So people are going to have to learn how to cut their costs and just manage, be very prudent, and that's the truth. There are other programs that organizations can also put in place. So things around, I know that during COVID period, there were organizations that were giving supplements, because at this time, people should really focus on being healthy. So I know that during COVID period, some organizations were giving their people supplements. It's something that they can also still consider at this time. If they can help with subsidizing transportation. You have I don't know if we can mention brands, but you have the likes of Shotlers, and another one that I was even talking to for one of my clients, when they were thinking of, okay, how can we subsidize transportation, for our people? So things like that, you can get all these transport or logistics companies to help with transportation for your employees. But even though those ones is not actually cheap, because by the time we considered, my clients just said, well, I'll add money to them, to their salary, instead of going that route. But that's one thing that employees can consider, or even consider having your own staff boss, and things, just to be able to ease to cushion the effects of the fuel hike for them. Again, more than ever before, organizations have to consider, can people really work from home? And if people are going to work from home, it's another conversation to have, because again, do they have the right resources to work from home? So let's say laptop, even internet connectivity, is it great where they live? Are you going to subsidize? Because data is not cheap at this time. So subsidizing data for people, subsidizing electricity for people, because it's like every quarter, every market they increase electricity. So just look at different ways by which we can help cushion the effect of the fuel hike and the resultant effect of that on people. Also, maybe employees need to do more of carpooling now. There's no need for somebody, if you live in the same area, just find a colleague that you can pair with, share maybe petrol cost and all of that, and maybe you drive your car this week, the next person drives their car next week, that sort of arrangement. Just things. I remember when I worked in a Big Four a long time ago, my young consultant that I recruited there, that was what they were doing. So one person and people, like 4 people in the car, or 5 people in the car, and they would just contribute towards petrol. So we need to bring back those ideas, and yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think one way as well is for companies to ask their people, because I feel like sometimes the solution is really with the people. And I think even we as HR leaders, sometimes we just go left, thinking that people want A and B and C and D, but they can tell you that, okay, this is what would actually make life easier for us, or these are the things that can even tell you, this particular benefit you're giving me, I can't be bothered. You can take it out and this one instead. So I think you're absolutely spot on, and thank you for sharing those ideas. I'm sure that people would run with it. So how can organizations, HR leaders, help their businesses position in a strategic way that employees actually want to work with their organization? And this is literally across the entire employee life cycle. So how do you position yourself in such a way that you attract the right talent? How do you position yourself in such a way that you are even retaining those talents? How are you basically positioning to ensure that you are attracting and retaining your talent?
Okay, so making yourself an employer of choice is, and I'm not going to give it any technical name or any HR name that has been coined somewhere, maybe in the US or in Australia or something, because I think that the major work really is in demystifying some of these things and making them really simple. We all know that leadership is very, very important. And what is leadership? Because even that has become a problem now, leadership, this leadership, that leadership. I think that the key thing in life in general is be kind. And from kindness, a lot of things rest on being kind, right? On kindness. I'll give you an example before I then start to talk on how to position yourself as an employer of choice. I had a terrible experience with an airline staff recently, and for me, my summary was that if that person was a kind person, what myself and my 85-year-old father experienced in that person's hands would not have happened. In fact, if that person was a kind person, they would have gone, over and beyond expectation to help us achieve the aim that we were trying to achieve. If that person was, I cannot even imagine working with that kind of person. That person came across to me as a very horrible human being, somebody who will not be a team player, somebody who will not be helpful at work, somebody who doesn't have the interest of the organization at heart. Because if you could treat a customer like that, then there's a huge problem. So more than ever, and I actually did attend a webinar by HRCI, and one of the experts there said that one of the things that they look for now in hiring is they look for people that are kind. People that are kind will speak up for other people. They would advocate for other people. They would have the interest of your organization at heart. And I think that if we flip that as well, that as an employer, if you're kind, you will look out for the good of your employees. You will do what makes them comfortable. You will do what makes them advance in life. So we can say, how to make yourself an employer of choice, training programs, develop your people, all those things all still rest on being kind to people, because people are working for you, but are they also progressing in life as they are working for you? Is it working for you? Is it comfortable for them? Do they have the right tools? Are you giving them the right experience? Are you giving them the right exposure? Are you equipping them with the right skills? Not just for where they're working for you now, but even for later in life, So I think that a whole lot of things rest on kindness. And of course, we can do all those things, TGIFs, they're good. We can even, chart our vision, mission, and all those things. They're good. They give us direction. I'm not going to tell anybody to jettison those things. But I think that what is more important is leadership, and how leadership looks out for other people. And by leadership, it doesn't mean that the MD alone, or the GMDs, or the deputy MDs, or the AGMs, or all those titles. Leadership is everyone. From day one you enter an organization, even you are a leader. So, and you should exhibit the qualities of a good leader, even as a team player, even as a team member, so just things like that. Being compassionate will go a long way. Being kind will go a long way in managing people and creating an atmosphere that fosters, good relationships and helps with productivity. Because if I have good relationship at work with people, if I feel loved at work, I will put more in. It doesn't mean that I will work in that organization forever, because I think that is where also sometimes employers miss it. They think that somebody must work with them forever. No, I don't have to work with you forever. But in the period that I'm working with you, I'm with my all and my best. I'm going to want to give back, because you have provided a solid environment for me to thrive as well. So it's both ways, really. You give and take, you give and take, you give and take.
Yeah, so spot on. And even when they leave, they will still be ambassadors of the organization. They will still speak positively. They will still refer people. So it's super important. And I think that, like you said, sometimes companies think it's always about the big things. It's always about mission, vision, yada, yada, yada. But sometimes it's just that human connection. People want to know that they are treated fairly. People want to know that they are appreciated for the work that they do. Being able to treat people right really, really goes a long way. So just wrapping up, is there anything that has been on your mind that you wanted to say to HR people, whether you are a team lead or you are just starting out in HR? Just a word of advice for we in HR. Please go ahead and share.
Okay, so my closing remarks really will still revolve around what I just said now, which is kindness. Because as HR people, we're leaders. And in being leaders, we should show kindness to people. Kindness, okay, so for example, even in recruitment, even if somebody doesn't get the job, there's a way you can make them feel that as they go, they'll be like, okay, I didn't get the job, but that was a good experience. And that's what we call candidate experience. But for me, it's all about being kind to people. Do you get what I mean? So really, I'm trying to think that life really should just revolve around that concept of kindness, for me. So as leaders, let us show compassion in the way that we relate to people and in the way that we lead people. So that would be my closing remarks, really. And let us hone our skills so that we become better and better. Let us network more. Let us share knowledge more, and things like that. Yes. So,
thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be able to learn and apply a lot of the things that you said. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate
it. Thank you more. Thank you very much.